Welcome back to the Smugglers Den. This is episode 33. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes. As always, I'd like to thank SW Destiny for hosting the Smugglers Den. We're putting up all kinds of cool stuff. By the way, it's looking like it's spoiler season, so make sure you head over there regularly for all the spoilers coming out. You can stop by Patreon Tiny Grimes if you want to check out all the stuff that I got cooking over there. I just put up a tier list. Last night I finished it. It went up at 8 a.m. this morning, and as we'll get to in a minute, it's pretty much pointless. But then there's also X-Wars is coming up. Smugglers Den is sponsoring that. That is this weekend. Get out there. Make that an event that is a big success so that other people want to do cash events. If I could be there, I would be there. And I'd like to bring on my guest this week, Elrathion. What's happening, man?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Have you won more or less than 5 store championships?
Less.
Ah, that's pretty good. How many have you won now?
3.
3. See, I'm only 1 win, 1 second place finish, and I might get to go tomorrow. We'll have to see. So how's your Destiny been looking the last week or so?
It's been good. Got a lot of games in. I try to always... I'm trying to wrap up my dark side streak and then go for light side ones afterwards. So I think I'm 1 more deck away, and then I'm switch to try and win a couple with light side.
That's pretty funny. Do you want to make sure you get your 4th win in before you switch to the light side?
I like to I play different deck every store championship, so
okay, that's fair.
Try to mix it up. Except Pomas, I don't touch Pomas.
Well, there's no reason to. All right, so for me, I was on a big break. It has ended. The cleanse is over. The salt is gone from the veins. I'm feeling better. I played an event on Wednesday with a 9s damage deck. Went 4-0, no close games. But our Wednesday nights tend to be a little more casual. There was no Pomas. And then I streamed today a deck that I really like and we'll get to with the big news. And that's a 4-character deck that I think is looking pretty promising now. So I streamed that on Twitch Tiny Grimes. Had a lot of fun with that, and it's looking good. Any deck that you are especially excited about moving forward?
Actually, I'm pretty excited about, but we'll touch on that in a second. What's going to come up with the changes that happen.
A store champ tomorrow, I guess, is a better question.
There is a store championship about an hour and a half away.
Mm-hmm.
I might go. I haven't determined yet.
Okay, if you go, what are you bringing? Because you know it's the last hurrah for a lot of decks. What are you bringing? A last hurrah deck? Bring the Pomas, man. Go out in a blaze of glory.
I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I'll do, like, I don't know, maybe Poray or something. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. I think if I wanted to do a Blaze of Glory deck, I might try the one-punch Vader deck that Smurley has been popularizing, which is Vader, Unkar, put fast hands on Vader with the blackmail, do crazy stuff. I think it's the last stage of this deck.
I've been thinking about that as well. That actually sounds good. Maybe I should try to put that together. I mean, I've tried it a couple of times. It's just like, when it goes off, it goes off. And when you don't try your fast hand, you're just sitting there like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It can be a little bit dicey. I like it with stuff like disarm. I would have 2 disarms in mind. Just when Vader hits his damage, you're like, okay, that's fine. I'll just pull something off the board. It's still fine. All right, well, let's move on to the big news of the day. If you have been living under a rock and you just emerged, you know that some people are rather dissatisfied with the meta. And one of the biggest targets was on the Pomas deck because it seems like it gets to do everything, right? It gets to cheat out actions. It gets to not care what it rolls. And so people have been very upset, and they've been especially upset with fast hands. And we got a new errata today, Elrathion, and fast hands, amongst other things, was touched. How excited are you for the new erratas? Are you in favor of having erratas? Did you like the meta just as it was and you wanted to ride it out until set 3? What are your thoughts on just having erratas right now?
Um, I think I'm pretty happy that they didn't go completely wild and just started nerfing 10 or 15 cards.
Yeah.
And they kind of took a more tempered approach. Uh, the interesting thing about, I think the biggest problem with the game is not only problem decks like Pomas and Vader potentially getting fast hand, 4-speed stuff, which is really annoying. But the fact, combine that with the tournament structure, to me, just, makes the problem a lot bigger than it should be. Because there's one thing, okay, lose a game, that's fine.
Sure.
But if that one lucky game happens in your first match and you miss out on the top cut or something, then that makes you just want to quit Destiny right then and there, I think.
Yeah. When your first match, you get unlucky, and then you're the and one, and there's 35 people at your tournament, and there's 8 and ones, and you don't make it, you're mad. If it happens in the finals, in a best of 1, and it happens, you're like, this is stupid. I played all day to have this happen in a best of 1. So yeah, I agree. A tournament structure change could have also helped the problem. But I'm pretty excited. Let's talk about the big changes, and then we'll swing back around to what their impact is. So the biggest change in my book is Fast Hands is now yellow character only. What do you think of this errata? Would you have rather seen something different? Did you want this card just to be banned outright? What are your thoughts on it?
I think I like it. The only issue potentially that I see is that, maybe some down the line in the future, some crazy yellow combination comes where even fast hands just on yellow becomes a problem. Or maybe it stifles the design space in the sense that, maybe now they don't, like similar to where I'm sure there's some hesitation with Ray, like, oh, can we even do that because Ray is there? I feel fast hands might now be kind of the deterrent for really good yellow cards. So from that vantage point, that's my only concern. However, I do like that they didn't when they had with something like, well, now Moss can only resolve her dice or something, because that would have been really terrible to me.
Okay. Yeah, I like the errata quite a bit. I would have been fine with an outright ban, to be honest, for exactly what you said. It fixes the problem now, and the only reason it's not still a problem is because there's not a tier 1 yellow character to put this on, right? It's like Aura Singh maybe now becomes better, and I like that part, right? Like, people now look at Aura as a real possibility, and if she sees play because it says yellow character, then I'm happy about it. But I think you're right. The future, all it does is move the problem to the future, is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
All right, but it does that. For now, I think it does clean some things up. So the next big change is another card or combination that I was really clamoring about, and that's ammo belt not being able to be. It only gets used. What is it? Only used with weapons now?
Correct.
Okay. To me, that's just an obvious thing. You can't have ammo belt plus second chance. I know right now it hasn't been a huge problem, but it's been a problem. I've had games where I've done, I don't remember, something like 42 damage to a character and lost. And it just is absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. I think that one probably got touched more because of the unfan element rather than it right now being broken. It just feels like, like you said, like if you deal 40 damage and if the character doesn't die, then you're like, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah, and with Paul Maz going away, or that's my theory anyway, I think Hero Mill would have jumped up quite a bit. Because without Thermal hitting the 3 characters, now you have that disgusting second chance ammo belt combo. You just go all in on it, and the odds become pretty good that can carry you through. So I'm happy to see that go away. You can still do crazy things with second chance, right? There's all kinds of ways to bring it back. You can do lots of cool stuff with it. You can't just do it for 1. Now it costs 3 every time.
Yep.
All right. Some other big changes. We have things like when a card is moved, the die goes away. So this is a big deal for cards like Cargo Hold, which to me was 100% unplayable now. Now it's kind of interesting, right? It's like, does that like Palpatine dude deck with cargo hold work? You put training on the dude, it moves over to Palpatine. I'm sure it doesn't, but cargo hold in itself became a lot more interesting.
Cargo hold is probably the one change that I'm most excited about. I think just from a strategy perspective, it just opens so much possibilities. Because like it essentially moves an upgrade die, which could be huge. And there's all this dynamics going to start to appear where you're like, okay, if I'm faster than him, and then do I have to roll out quicker to make sure that my upgrade die doesn't move? If I reroll, are they going to claim and just move to the other character who's already exhausted? Yeah. Do I not activate this character? So even if they move it, I can still do something. Like there's going to be so much going through your head playing against cargo hold play like that. Yeah. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I agree. It becomes a really high skill cap card now. The problem is it a good card? Like that's the problem, right? Like it's a cool high skill cap card, but if people are running things like Palpatine and Vader Raider without many upgrades and Poe Maz without many upgrades, is it actually good?
It's going to be killer against the Fen, I can tell you that much.
That's what I'm thinking. That it might be the counter to FN, because if you can pull his upgrade and move it to another character, then they can't do the overwriting because it's gone. That's like not many FN decks make infinite dollars. They just want that $3 and then keep, overwriting over the top of that. So yeah, I mean it could become a meta choice just to combat that archetype, which would be really cool. I like that there's now a meta choice for that.
I think it's actually probably going to stay in the meta for, this is my Boundless Ambition prediction. I think this is going to be a meta-defining card for a very long time. Even in Empire of War, which, we haven't really talked about, but, just if you think about K2SO, if somebody throws that in their deck and just moves the weapon and forces you to ready and lose that ability for the game.
That would be amazing.
That'd be so. So I think it's just gonna stick around so
long. That'd be so good. I love how you're finding a way to destroy the unplayably bad character. So if some idiot were to ever play this, I would wreck him.
Yep.
But
so it's really exciting.
It is an exciting card. I'm excited as well to see what we can do with it. Let's see. Some other changes are one with the Force got worse. Now when the character dies, that die doesn't stay out there and get extra value. It actually goes away. So it's not substantially worse because oftentimes what I was doing is I'd roll out, they'd roll out, and then I'd resolve other dice because I knew I could just leave one with the Force out and do some really cool stuff later in the turn where I would then re-roll it, get the 3 focus, and then use it. And now you can't do that. It'll go back, and then you'll have to re-roll it into the pool. So I don't know. It doesn't really change the value of the card that much to me. Does it to you?
I mean, I think probably the only reason this was done was out of consistency. I don't think you could have really had the cargo hold change and then not have the one with the Force change. But yeah, I don't really feel like Hero needed that nerf.
You don't? Hero Blue is so good though. They have Rey.
So I'm sad about that one, but you know what? I'll take it if it means some better things in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about that got hit or changed? Shields, I guess, is actually quite a bit different. I was reading through the Shields rules, and now you can proc things like Force Illusion before using your shield, so that's kind of a big deal. But the biggest one to me was that Qui-Gon can do his ability even if he's maxed out in shields, which is kind of cool.
Yep. You know what? The other big thing is that I think you haven't touched on is my ally is the Force.
Yeah.
I think that one is just absolutely huge.
Sort of. I mean, if Blue Hero was good, it would be enormous.
Yeah, I'm I mean, the reason where I see it to be, I think it might potentially, and I know it might be long stretch there, but I think it could bring Obi-Wan back into the meta.
Yes, I like that. Yeah, because if you can go, my ally is the Force, use Obi's, two side, focus it into his own side into a 3 that you just focused, and then the other one into a 3 and do 6. That's pretty dang strong.
Exactly. Because at the worst case scenario, you have a blank and a 3. I mean, a blank and a 2 focused.
Yep.
Well, you got a minimum of 6, and the sky is, only the limit there. Because if you happen to have other good dice, then it could turn into potential 8 or 10 damage on the swing.
Yeah, I really like Obi-Wan. I think he's a cool card. I would like to see him be better. And what's really strong about that is if you... So let's say Obi-Wan's about to die, and you roll him out, and you have that scenario. You have the 2 focus and a blank on the table, and my ally is the Force in the discard pile. They probably can't kill him, because it's unlikely that they have more than 6 health remaining. So if they kill him, you'll get to proc that before you actually die, and get to crush them.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. That's how that works, right? Actually, thinking about it more, it has ambush, so you get the ambush action as well, right?
That's interesting. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Actually, because it's another action. I'm not sure if you get the ambush.
Yeah, I can't remember now what the ruling is on that. We'll have to check that one up. So maybe that works. Maybe that doesn't work at all.
I don't think it works, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it does not work, actually. I don't think you get the extra action until once it resolves. Then you get the extra action, but he's already dead. So there you go. Ideas for plays that don't actually work. Any other
we did it.
Big changes? I don't think there are any other changes I can think of.
No, we know that the Italian doubts got retranslated. So that's a big thing.
The Italian doubt got retranslated. That's actually not a big thing. I don't actually care about that, Elrathion.
Well, they got first posted on the Asmodee, the Italian website, and so people were trying to figure out what changed about doubts. It was like
nothing got changed.
A different translation. Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about then. What does this mean for the meta? So we'll start at the top. If we were in agreement that Pomaz was a tier 1 deck, my question becomes: is this deck dead? Is it tier 1? Is it tier 1.5? Where does this deck fall? Where does it fall for you?
I think it's still very much tier 1. It's just the crazy scenario of the fast hands hit and run round 1 kind of gets eliminated. They'll actually have to really... I think skill's going to come into play a lot more now, but by no means it becomes a weak deck. Right, it's still very, very strong. It still has the planetary uprising shenanigans. Maybe it becomes more of a control style deck now. Maybe now, you bank on the second chances or something. It might go through a certain evolution, but I think, by no means I think it's going to drop to tier 1.5 or 2.
See, I disagree with you. I think the sort of standard version of the deck drops all the way to tier 2. And my reasoning is simply that especially if you do the roll-off now, like now there's more ifs, right? Now the ifs are, if you don't get your battlefield, they just kill Maz and you lose. Like, unless something really weird happens. You have to roll amazingly well. They have to not have removal. So now you pretty much have to hit your battlefield, whereas before it wasn't that big of a deal because you had fast hands to be able to cheat out whatever you're getting and do little tricks. I just feel like it loses a lot of the consistency, and that's what made that deck so good to me, was that it didn't really matter what you rolled or necessarily what you drew because there was so much redundancy. Once you got that fast hands out, there just wasn't a lot they could do. Now your opponent gets to interact with you a lot more. Everyone's running a lot of removal. I just feel like our standard build drops off substantially. But like you said, I do think there is room for like the phoenix to grow from the ashes and come back and say, okay, we can't do the crazy stuff we did before, so let's change our attitude here. Right now, we're going to be a little more reliant on Planetary Uprising. The card's pretty busted. Let's use that. If we don't hit or if we hit our dice and they get removed, oh well, we're a little bit more controlling instead of being all in on rolling out the big damage and then crushing their face.
Yep, and also, and I don't know if this is good or not yet, but like as we discussed with cargo holds, maybe Moss players start running cargo hold and just switch over to fast hands round 1, and maybe round 2 they play second chance, and then they switch over to second chance to Poe. Is that worse? I don't know. Maybe it could
be cool. The thing is, what I like about that is, again, there's a lot of ifs, right? It's not like before where everything was ultra consistent. Now you have to find these cards, and you have to find second chance before Maz dies. And if you don't have the throne room and you don't have a fast hands on Poe, they're just going to kill Maz immediately. So Maz is dead by turn 2. So you have 2 turns to find that second chance and that fast hands before Maz is just dead. So it's interesting.
Yep, I agree.
And that's what I like about the deck. It went from uninteresting to interesting. I agree. I think people will still play it. And by the way, to be perfectly clear, sometimes it's going to do exactly what it did before. They're going to go like hit and run, roll the special, thermal. Next turn, hit and run, roll the special, thermal. That's game, right? All right, good job. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? That's still going to happen. It's just not as often.
Correct.
All right. The next deck to me that we need to talk about is Vader Raider. So I have my tier list. Last night I put it up. I dropped Vader Raider to 1.5, which is basically just saying there's Poe decks and there's Nines decks. They're the top, and then right under that is Vader Raider. What do you think happens to Vader Raider? Does it get worse, better, the same? And if it's worse, how much worse?
I don't think anyone's going to say that it gets better.
It's better, man. What are you, crazy?
Actually, Vader Raider, for me, was actually one of the best decks. Yep. If you build it right, I felt like I made a big kind of mind switch before. Like, I always am a very control-y player, and I used to build my decks with like 10 control cards, 12 control cards. And then I'm sitting there in certain tournaments thinking, like, it doesn't make any sense anymore because I'm just going to action sheet everything. And I won't.
What's the point?
Yeah, I just need to have a damage race. And so I started changing my Vader Raider and my other decks, and I started noticing my win rate against Pomaz and other decks skyrocketed just because I just won the damage rate. So fast hands being nerfed really hurts that capability. Like, really hurts it.
Yep, totally agree. In my opinion, it kills the deck. Like, I wouldn't touch this deck at all now, which most people are going to say is insane. It still has Force Strike. It still has Holocron. But the thing is, now it's a fair deck. You roll out Vader's 3, it's gone. You're never going to get to just roll out a Vader 3 and resolve it unless it's a really weird game. I feel like most of the damage went away, and now it becomes basically what it was in Awakenings, which was a great deck for Awakenings. But I feel like the damage decks do a lot more damage than they did in Awakenings, and Vader Raider's just like, it's just behind now.
Oh yeah, I agree. I could see it totally dropping because not only that, but it's a snowball effect because part of the reason why Vader Raider was so good was because Pomaz was kind of forcing out the 3 and 4 character decks.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that they get reintroduced, if Phasma becomes a thing again and there's no fast hands, it's gonna get so annoying for Vader.
Yeah, I know it's gonna sound crazy. I think Vader Raider slips to tier 3, which for me is still a solid deck, but tier 2 threatens to win tournaments. I don't think Vader Raider threatens to win tournaments anymore. I think he wins games, but I don't think that deck is a threat. Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So I like that you're like, yeah, you are. Like there's no way to elaborate on that. You're just a crazy person. That's fair. That's a fair point. So let's talk about then, and you already alluded to it a bit. If Pomaz is worse, if it's less prevalent, if it's less consistent, whatever adjective we want to use there, what does that do to the meta generally? I think, and I think you're going to agree, that 3 and 4 character decks just become better as a whole.
Yeah.
All right, so what are some specific examples of those then that you're really looking at and you're like, there's a deck to keep your eye out on?
Yeah, I think Phasma decks, for starters, were already on the cusp of being tier 1, and maybe they were even tier 1. Like, I've played the deck a lot of times, and, you know, only in the scenario where it was like fast hand, turmoil, hit and run, only in those scenarios I got in trouble. Every other scenario, I was like, okay, I'm going to control this, I'm going to put some shields out, I'm going to hunker down, I'm fine. And now with Pomas getting the nerf, with Vader Raiders getting the nerf, I just feel this is probably going to be one of the decks to beat. The only caveat is that it's going to depend how FN Ankar does, because Phasma doesn't have a chance in the earth against Ankar FN.
Yeah,
it's really bad.
It's Imperial Inspection, man. That deck, that card's so good.
In the semifinal, one of my store championship, I played against an undefeated Phasma deck with my FN deck, and it was so frustrating for him. Like, we just played best of 3 in both games. Like, one of the games, I think he dealt 6 damage the entire game. Like, over 5 rounds. It was just horrible. Oh, weapon to hand, I steal your resources. And then, and all his Guardian did nothing. I'm like, it's okay, weapon override. And he was just sitting there like, okay, this is not fun. And I could see in his face he was so annoyed with it.
Right, what's the point?
Rightfully so.
And I feel the same way. I love Phasma. I did before this nerf. But I feel like if I'm playing Phasma, right, I'm basically taking the same strategy as I would with 9s, and 9s just does it better. And so that's been my issue. Every time I try the Phasma deck, I'm like, I have this new tweak. I got this new tweak. I think it's going to be better. And then I'll win 3 games. I'm like, yeah. And then I'll get a buddy. I'm like, hey, man, just play this 9s deck. I got to see how it does. All right, 9s is just a way better version of Phasma. Cool, good game.
It's different. I wouldn't say it's better. You know, and one of the caveats that's going to be brought into this equation is cargo hold. If cargo hold does prove to be this kind of semi-silver bullet against the FN, where people are just obnoxiously claiming to prevent FN from ever getting his 3 weapon, and maybe that makes FN Ankar less playable, and who knows, but at the same time, it's also pretty annoying against Phasma decks because they're not particularly fast either.
Yeah, and I feel like Phasma really relies on her upgrades, and that's why Inspection is so bad for it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be this whole 9s Phasma cargo hold situation is going to be very interesting. I think the solution for Phasma decks, just stick Sabotage in your deck ×2. I know it really only hits Stand and Inspection these days, but it hits Backup Muscle, I guess. Maybe your opponent plays a Slave 1 that you're able to get. I don't know. But I think being able to get rid of those cards is really important.
That's true, but I don't think it's enough. Like, the guy who I played in the semifinal played Sabotage, and he sabotaged me, and it was still not close.
Yeah.
So
I can agree with that. So yeah, I think you're right on that. I think a big deck I'm looking at is one I streamed today, which is a 4-character deck. There's the archetype called Endless Swag that's roaming about. I think that personally, I don't think that's a good version of the build. I think it's too all in on getting resources with bad cards like Supply Line and Underworld Connections. I don't think you need all that garbage. You just cut that out. Play lots of redeploy weapons with your 4 dudes. You play Endless Ranks. You play Slave 1, and you wreck face. And it's been really solid.
Yeah, those are good lists. I think another variant of the Endless Swag is just the 4 red characters. Because the only thing with, like, I think a good player, how they'll play against Endless Ranks, and I mean, it's not easy to pull off because there's a lot of damage threat. But ideally, you kill Bala and then you kind of just spread out the damage and kill everybody in one turn, so that there's not this chance of endless ranking 55 times in a game.
Well, you could really only do it 4 with cheats.
Yeah. But it's very. In fact, like in my store championship last week, I was playing against the double Death Trooper FN deck in the semis, and he had resources, and I had the guy at 9, and I had a backup muscle. I'm like, nope, I'm not killing you.
No
I started to put damage on the other guy, and when they're both at 9, I fast-handed with Vader,
nice.
and I just, 4 speeds, do 2 damage, and backup muscle the other one.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I took a lot of damage for it, but I knew that I might have ended in this endless cycle of redeploys and,
Yep.
So playing 4 red characters does kind of solve that, because you have no choice.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're going to endless rank anything.
Yeah, and then you can play 2 pilots in there as well instead of only the 1, which makes things even more obnoxious. Okay, you can't get rid of anything.
Yeah, and there's this archetype out there, and it's probably a little bit too much all in, but you can play with award ceremony, and and then what you do is you just roll out the TIE pilots with wingman, and or you get training on them, and you can't remove any die, and you just keep pitching until you roll your max 8 damage or 10 damage, and okay, 10, I'm done. Next round, I'll do it again. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
it has options.
That sounds like a low-skill, boring-ass deck, but you know what? It might be real effective.
Yep.
Another set of archetypes I think that improve substantially are mill decks, especially the 3-character variants. There's like a really cool Unkar, Royal Guard, TIE Pilot deck that lets you use loose ends, and then what do? Do you really kill the pilot? And then Unkar just wrecks you all game with a blackmail on him, then a fast hands, and do you go for Unkar, and then the damage gets mitigated by the Royal Guard, and then they loose ends you twice, and there's 8 cards from your deck. It's just a really hard deck to deal with, but if you get to double thermal it is not a hard deck to deal with at all.
Yeah, that's going to become a good deck for sure. I agree with that. But yeah, you do go for Unkar.
Yeah, I
There's just no question.
I definitely agree with that, but it's not easy to get him down before terrible things happen to you.
Yeah.
So I think Hero Mill would have been maybe my go-to deck if Ammo Belt hadn't gotten hit. So I'm not sure where that stands. 3-character hero, I still think it doesn't have quite enough health to withstand, say, 9s doing a lot of damage.
Well, you always run into the same issue with Hero Mill. It's like you have no problem getting rid of their deck. You have a problem getting rid of their hand. It's like you discard the entire deck, and then they're sitting there with 3 cards, and they killed everyone but Moss, and you're just sitting there like, okay,
It's not that hard, though. There's a lot of cards now. You're going to play Ascension Gun because of the battlefield, so you put that on her. You play 3PO. There's the 3 cards right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten a little bit easier, but still my experience, oftentimes just finding it always gets very close, but I don't feel it's as consistent or even as safe as Villain is, especially after, it was safer with Ammo Belt second chance. It had a real shot.
Yeah.
Now with that gone.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what's revealing in our whole discussion here? So how many hero decks did you mention that were going to do better?
I didn't realize there were hero decks anymore. I thought the whole point of this nerf was to eliminate hero from the equation. Am I wrong?
Who knows? I'm secretly hoping that this Obi-Wan maybe, but I mean, I'm realist. I think it's going to be more gimmicky than actually warping the meta.
Oh, yeah. I think it'll be an out-of-nowhere kind of play that surprises people.
Although, the one thing is, what might make a reappearance is actually Rey, Han, Rey Poe, Rey Qui-Gon might get stronger out of all of this.
Yeah, maybe.
Because if guns get more stronger, shields get more stronger. And so I think you might actually have a changing of the guards there.
To Vibro Knife becoming the big problem?
Yeah, because well, melee decks were like Vader Raiders were absolutely they were just going through Han like butter.
Yeah.
You know, so even with Poe Maz sometimes using obnoxiously fast, making the shield deck's just not quite there. However, when we're talking 3-character decks, 4-character decks, with all the shields that a Han can provide and with all the tricks he has up his sleeve and the second chance, he might be able to outlast. He might actually be kind of...
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows?
Another possibility is these 3-character hero blue decks with Padawan, Rey, or even like Luminara Padawans or something like. Actually, could Luminara actually not suck after this?
No. I don't think there's a
Give me
world...
hope, man. Tell me she's going to be great.
No, there's like... We have like S tier now, and then we also have like Jin or Luminara tier.
Yeah. Right.
Those are like the decks you do not mention in competitive play.
So I would say there's only one problem I have with the Fast Hands nerf, and that's the innocent bystander decks that were like, yo, dude, I was just hanging out, and Poe Maz wrecked my face because they happen to make Fast Hands too good. That's kind of sad. Like the One Punch Vader deck getting blown out, and I feel like Han Snap gets a lot worse with this because now you can't do Fast Hands on Snap to do some cool stuff there. It just feels like a lot of decks kind of get blown out on accident, which makes me a little sad.
So that was your example, hand snaps.
Sure.
How about we mention One Punch Vader?
I did mention that.
You did? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just deaf. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't think Snaps gets nerfed that much because of it.
I was just trying to come up with a second example. I was struggling. I came up with a good idea, though. It's called, if your deck is deemed bad enough, I'll let you put Fast Hands on whoever you want. That's the solution. It's like if we're in a tournament and you go, Tiny, my deck sucks, man. Can I put Fast Hands on this red character? I'll be like, that's cool. Go for it.
Yeah, I think probably a restricted list might have been more warranted. Although the list might wind up being long down the line.
Very long.
Right now it could have been just Poe. If they did Poe and Vader, okay.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm fine.
Poe, Vader, Fast Hands. That's the only restricted list. Oh, and then you'd have to put Second Chance and Ammo Belt on it.
No, I think putting Second Chance on there would be horribly unfair.
Okay, so you're saying you would still have to have the Ammo Belt errata then?
Yeah, I'm fine with Ammo Belt errata.
Okay.
I think you don't touch Second Chance.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could have worked. It's interesting, right? Because either way, it's a Band-Aid. Because if you just make it yellow only, it's a Band-Aid till a busted yellow character comes. If you make it a restricted list, then every single character that would be decent with Fast Hands, you're like, put it on there! Suddenly, like, you can't play Poe and Finn together because Fast Hands would be too good on both of them. And you're like, what? No!
Yeah, you're right.
So I don't know.
Bad idea.
All right, so I guess let's wrap up our meta talk. What do you think of the meta now? Do you think it's in a better place, essentially a similar place, or a worse place?
I think it might get in a better place because we're getting kind of stale. I think a lot of conscientious people kind of said, okay, I've won with my Poe, I'll try something else. And so the meta from that point of view started to show a couple new decks. But if everyone was just like hungry for wins, everyone would just bring, 2 or 3 decks and they would just stick to them. And it would be really boring.
I agree. I think a lot of the people who say, look, Poe Maz is on the decline. It's like, okay, you know what? It still wins a lot of events with a lot less representation because people just aren't playing it anymore because it's not that fun to play, and people get pissed when you play it, and you've already won, and what's the point?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Last thing that I want to ask you is Gencon. Is this too close to Gencon? I think we all would have agreed that 3 weeks ago this list would have been better. But they've made it very public that they have to go through Lucasfilm for everything they do. And I know this better than anyone else. Here comes the story. Elrathion, did you happen to see the article that I wrote, like, before the game, like, just as the game was released, but then it didn't get, then the article didn't come out for 3 months? Do you remember that article?
Yeah, yeah.
It was it was like, why 3 characters are good. And most of the article was great. And then at the end, I posited a deck. And it's the worst piece of garbage deck you'll ever see in your life. And that gets published. And I was like, oh, God, I forgot how bad that deck was. And so I messaged them and I said, hey, I don't want to change the article. And theoretically, I would love to change the whole deck. But I know you have to go through Lucasfilm. What if I just changed 4 cards in the whole deck? It'll still be a bad deck, but it'll be playably bad. And they're like, no. Everything has to go through Lucasfilm, and it takes forever. So my guess is this list took a long time. So I would have loved to see it weeks ago. I think even FFG would have. But what do you think about the timing today? We have the list today. Gen Con is, what, a month maybe? What do you think?
I think it's good.
Okay.
I'd like to actually, I like to be surprised.
Ooh.
I would like to see a couple of, like, people come up with something new and exciting. I don't know. With Gen Con, I don't think a lot of surprises were left. I think maybe now somebody's going to doctor something up. And in a month's time, it's going to surprise people. Yeah.
Maybe. I do like that aspect. For me, personally, selfishly, the last couple weeks, I've had a lot of time to test. Although I took a break anyway, so I don't know why I care. But the next month, I don't have as much time, right? And so it's just that weird thing of, like, for people who were in my spot, that was like, I put in, like, let's say somebody's going to Gen Con, they put in 2 months of rigorous testing to get ready for Gen Con. And now it's like, oh, that didn't really matter that much. Like, yeah, I know some decks really well, but I don't actually know what the meta looks like anymore. That's kind of frustrating.
But I can counter you and say maybe because some decks are more counterable, maybe your preparation before would have not mattered that much. Like, what if you're just horribly unlucky and round 1 Pomas, round 2 Pomas, both losses, and you start your strength of schedule just shot. You just keep being pared down, and you've prepared all in the world, and you played well, but too bad. Now at least I feel you actually, I mean, it's still a luck-based game, it's still a draw-based game, but it's a little bit less, which I'm always in favor of.
All right, I can concur with that. I want to counter your counter, though. Cool. You know what really screws Elrathion?
What?
The bad player who doesn't have a lot of cards, has gone all in on Pomas. They know they're not that good at the game, but they still win Store Champs because of it. What about that poor player, Elrathion? Did you even think about them?
No. I don't think so. Okay. I'm selfish, too.
That's fair.
I look from a competitive angle. That being said, and I know, like, everyone's restricted by how they, in their own meta and the people they meet. But by and large, I see very few people, unless they really just kind of play once a week or once every other week. But most people kind of tend to buy a good number of cards and bring a good number of varied decks. Very few, like the whole idea that, for instance, that you can play SOR on its own, and people bring SOR. I've not met a single person who builds an SOR only deck, even beginners.
Claim.
Yeah, nobody does it. Yeah, nobody does it. So the thing is, they've invested their money in Pomas, but you know what? I'm sure it'll switch to something else.
Like we already said,
I think they'll be
dead. It just needs a slight retooling.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we go today, I want to bring up one more thing, and it's a little uncomfortable, but because it exploded so much this past weekend, I want to talk about it. So that's cheating. I'm not going to go into too many specifics because this isn't really about a person. as much as it is about the whole functioning of this. But it's just this idea that, so there was a person at a tournament, we'll say in Virginia, and this person on stream, okay, is caught cheating in both the semifinals and the finals. And the part to me that is shocking, so what's not shocking, is that someone cheated in a card game. Elrathion, I hate to be the guy who tells you this, people cheat in card games. Did you know that?
No. Well, okay. I did. I watched you on stream.
That is unintentional cheating, and I cheat myself more often than I cheat other people unintentionally. See me letting people remove my other dice with TIE Pilot out.
I think we should publish your name and show your picture online.
I mean, those are both out there. But yeah, so people do cheat, right? It happens. What baffles me is this particular scenario, because I talked to several people involved in it who know this individual, and they're all surprised because like, he's a nice person. He's a community builder. He brings people into our meta. He's a key member in our meta functioning properly. And it's just really sad to me when people cheat their friends, right? Like, I personally, my own moral compass says you don't cheat in card games, period. Now, if there's $100,000 on the line and you can get away with something, I personally wouldn't do it. I could have some understanding of someone who did do it, right? I'd say, well, I wouldn't have done that. I think you're kind of a bad person for having done it, but I get it. Now, when the only thing on the line is pride and you're cheating your supposed friends, that's when I just want to tell you out there, don't do that. Don't blow up your whole meta to win a store championship, or in this person's case, to lose a store championship. It is not worth cheating your friends. It's just not. Don't do that. Can you echo this for me, Elrathion? Don't do that.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Okay.
And what's stunning about the whole situation is not only that he did it, but what I really don't understand is why he did it, knowing that he's on camera.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. You're a very competitive player. I can see how potentially you could get tempted to cheat.
Yep.
Saying it's right, I can see how you could get tempted to cheat, especially if you think you can get away with it.
Right.
Probably it's not the first time he cheated. Probably he saw that some of the people in his meta are very distracted, and he could do some of that stuff, and because he was successful in doing so, he felt he could do it always. Probably that's the case. But that being said, it takes a lot of hubris, or stupidity, or both, to say, okay, I'm going to be on a live stream.
Yep.
And I'm just going to, and it's not like, okay, I'm going to change this, like, I'm going to not pay a resource, or it's not like, I'm going to draw an extra card, or it's not one of those things where it's fatigue or anything else that you could attribute, like physically taking cards out of this card pile.
Yeah.
Like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Like, it just...
That is the weirdest part, right? The manner of cheating. If, let's say he took an extra resource every turn and then he got caught. It's very easy at that point for him to be like, oh, did I? Oh, I'm sorry. Like, I do little things like that. I won't say regularly, but occasionally on accident. And they're small, right? And small things done once are easily seen as accidents. But yeah, something where it's like clearly not an accident. I don't understand people that cheat that way, right? Like, if you're gonna cheat,
I don't know.
Be clever about it.
I was watching the video, and I just like paused it, rewind it, paused it, rewind it. I was just like, what? Like,
yeah, I don't get it. It's very weird. But
yeah,
so I don't know. The bottom line is, I get it. If you go to Worlds, there's still nothing on the line, but you're playing. It's a guy. He's a douchebag. You know he's a douchebag. You hate that guy. You've seen him online all over the place. He's a jerk. Let's say it's Tiny Grimes, and you hate Tiny Grimes so freaking much because he won't shut his big fat yap, and you decide to cheat him at Worlds because you hate him so much. I'm saying don't do it, but I get it. But what I don't get is cheating your friends Don't do that. Do not
Don't do it.
that.
I agree. Don't do it. I'll say one thing though. I feel the guy has got his punishment already. I think probably nothing hurts more than losing the trust of your friends.
Yep.
And the shame that it goes accompanied with it. And so anyone who thinks it's funny to post pictures of the guy, or maybe even worse, reveal his address, should stop.
Don't do that. That's called the Bartman syndrome. I don't. Are you a big Cubs fan, Elrathion?
I'm unfortunately not.
Okay, so it was like 1998 or something. It's the playoffs. The Cubs are about to win and go to the World Series. It's looking good. I don't know if you know anything about the Cubs, Elrathion. This is not a common occurrence. So there's a ball hit, and the Cubs player is about to catch it. He's got his hand up to catch it, and this Cubs fan reaches like right over him and catches it. And he's very excited, right? I got a ball at a Cubs game, a playoff game no less. This is a great day. Well, the Cubs ended up losing that game. They ended up losing the series. They're out. And that's what people did. They put this dude's picture on the news with his address. They're like, we're not saying you should go to his house and beat the hell out of him, but if it were to happen, I mean, we all wouldn't mind. That's kind of a problem. We don't do that.
Yeah.
All right. No mob mentality. For me personally, though, I will say this. I know... I don't know how to say this. Putting his name out is dangerous because people will be stupid and not act rationally with that information. But on the other side, I think it's important, if he continues to play in the game, for people to know who the people who are caught cheating are, right? Like, okay, I'm sitting down across from Joe Smith. I know Joe Smith has cheated in the past. I'm going to be extra careful when I play Joe Smith. That's information that I think is fair game if we could agree to use it responsibly. I'm not sure people can do that, though.
Yeah, that's the problem.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, I want to ask you one more thing then. What was your favorite card that was spoiled? And before you answer that, I recorded a video with all the new cards spoiled. We're not going to go into them all. We don't have time today. But I'll put a link in the show notes. So, Rathian, what was your favorite card?
None of the cards I'm really blown away by, to be honest.
Okay.
The card that I think is probably the strongest out of all spoiled ones is the Cannon.
Yeah. The Cannon is very interesting. For those of you who didn't see the spoilers, it is a 5-cost neutral support artillery with a 3 ranged, 4 range for $1, 5 range for $1, 6 range for $1, 2 blanks. I really think Poe looks at this card and starts drooling. He's like, oh my goodness, so much flexibility. It's like a No Mercy on a stick. This is amazing.
Well, now that they're tier 2, they deserve it, right?
Oh, heck yeah. I need it. Yeah, I don't think that card's going to see much play, to be honest, outside of Poe. And with this nerf, I don't know what Poe's going to look like. And especially going into set 3, like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's better, right? I got to guess that Poe will not be the runaway favorite in set 3 with this nerf to fast hands.
Yeah. Let's
see. My favorite card, this is going to be the lamest choice ever, Elrathion. It's pinned down.
That's actually not. That's it's just a very, very good card.
Yeah,
it's probably the best removal in the game.
Yeah, it's not exciting, but it's 1 cost, neutral, red, spot a vehicle, remove a die. It's basically flank, only more versatile. And so I was talking about this on the video that if you play a deck like a 3-character deck with a couple vehicles, suddenly you've got 2 copies pinned down, 2 copies of flank. If it's a yellow deck, 2 copies of Electroshock, 2 copies He Doesn't Like You. That's a hell of a removal suite.
Just curious, and I don't quite remember, does it say a vehicle or a support?
It says vehicle.
Okay.
So that does change things a fair amount. You can't just throw a back muscle in your deck and be good to go.
That's sad. No,
Oh
it's still
yeah.
good.
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine that with Imperial Inspection salvage stand decks? I would be totally broken. I'm glad it says vehicle now that I think about that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I'm excited for set 3. Hopefully vehicles are going to be good. I want to hear what you think about this. This is a statement I made. I want to see if you agree or not. I said that I think we're going to see less cards that we are blatantly excited about, because with 2 sets already in the books, set cards now when they're designed either fill holes or are just power creep. It's hard to design a card now that stand out amazing without power creep unless it's filling a hole. And so we're going to see less of those cards where we're like, holy mackerel. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think there's still lots of room to grow. There's so much stuff they could do. They could explore lower point cost. There could be alternatives to Palpatine on the hero side. There maybe finally they start to think that they don't need to design another 20-point hero character, for instance. That could be exciting.
Don't be crazy. They're going to design a 23-pointer. Because Maz is too good to run as 1 die with it, so it has to be 23 points.
I think they're playing a song, and instead of what the world needs now is love, it's like what the world needs now is a 20-point hero character.
I think so. I want to see in set 3, this is what I want to see, the 28-point Yoda. That would be baller. I would be very excited. And since we already have the 20-plus point Mace, I think the odds of that happening are 0. But that's still what I'm rooting for.
I agree.
I want to be able to go...
By the way, can we just say one thing here?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to explain this to me.
I'm ready.
How does Mace at, what is he, 22?
I think so.
At 22 points have less HP than Darth Vader at 21?
Here's why. Let's say you're playing against... let's say this. Let's say in the future there are 3-cost Ewoks that all only have 2 health. You need Mace to cost that much because he just instant kills them all.
Oh, brilliant!
I know. I'm pretty sure that's the reason. It's a safe proofing it for 7 sets down the road, just in case.
Never thought about that. Wow.
Yeah. See, you got to think deeper, man.
Yes.
Oh boy.
I was like, I think the character needs to be 28 before they give him more than 12 HP on the hero side.
Yeah, I won't be surprised to see that. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure having you. Hopefully all of you out there are excited. If you have buddies that quit the game because of fast hands, call them. Tell them. FFG is listening. They are fixing things. They admit there's a little too much action cheating. Not too much action cheating because they're only, making it yellow only and they didn't do anything about Rey, but that's another story for another day. We're on our way. The meta's different. Have fun. Make sure you come by Patreon Tiny Grimes because I'm going to be re-updating the tier list that I just posted today. And 2 hours later got blown to bits. Thanks a lot, FFG. You don't know timing at all. So, Elrathion, where can people find you on the internet?
You could just find me on Discord or on,
Okay.
Discord or Facebook.
Discord or Facebook. Those are the places to find you. All right, you can find me all over. Patreon Tiny Grimes. I've been streaming at Twitch Tiny Grimes. YouTube. Unfortunately, I'm not Tiny Grimes. I'm some crazy thing. Just look for Tiny Grimes. And that's going to do it for this week. Thanks so much for coming by the Smugglers Den, and we'll see you soon.